So, hello all, welcome to the 10th episode of this series where we are trying to understand the factors that motivate different fans to follow a particular IPL franchise so passionately. So, in this series today, we have a very special guest with us because so far we had very passionate fans, but today we have Anoop Swaroop with us. So, Anoop has a very different story from the fans that have come to this show so far. So, Anoop was born in Chennai, brought up in Chennai, but is a passionate follower of SunRisers Hyderabad. MS Dhoni is his favorite player, but he follows SunRisers Hyderabad very passionately. So that makes him a special candidate for this interview, and we will understand that why he is not a CSK fan right now and why he is a SRH fan. So another thing that you should know about Anoop is that he's a club level cricketer and he has played club level cricket in India for various clubs and also in United States. So he has also that cricketing background that he can bring into this conversation. So he started following IPL from the very first season and he changed his favorite franchises from CSK to Deccan Chargers and then KKR. And then finally, now he has been passionately following SunRisers Hyderabad since the name change Deccan Chargers to SunRisers Hyderabad happened. So I guess we will understand a lot of things from Anoop in this episode. So my first question to you is, as a person from Chennai, how do you feel that you do not follow Chennai Super Kings, the franchise where Thala MS Dhoni plays, but you follow Sunrisers Hyderabad?
So, thanks for that introduction, Deep. I mean, appreciate it. So you can say club level cricketer was a little taking it a little too far, but you can say that I played for clubs.
Right, right.
Uh, or they were kind enough to accommodate me. But anyways, so to your question, Thala, it goes back to 2007 actually. 2007, India wins the World Cup, and Dhoni gets all the accolades as he should. But I have been a big fan of I've been a big fan of Dhoni as well as another gentleman by the name Gautam Gambhir,
Right,
and for some reason I felt that during that din and all the noise that followed after the victory of World Cup, people forgot about Gautam Gambhir's contribution, and so for some reason, even though personally I liked Dhoni, I liked Gautam Gambhir a little notch higher than Dhoni, and I felt a little aggrieved that he did not get all the accolades that he should have deserved. But yeah, that was one of the other reasons, and also because there's a funny story why I chose not to support CSK. All my friends are from Chennai.
right,
I grew up in Chennai, so absolutely all my and it's no fun being doing the same thing in the crowd. Then it's like being in the same room, everybody supporting for the same team, no fun. So it started off as a banter that even though I was living in Chennai, purposely wanted to support a team that Chennai plays against. So
right,
whichever team Chennai would play, I would start supporting them. And subconsciously, I think that's how I started going away from CSK. And then the entire later on the Srinivasan saga did not help. So I morally cut off myself from CSK and Dhoni after that. So I don't know if it's blasphemy to say that anymore, but yeah, that's how it was. And long story short, that's how my support for CSK stopped. And actually, never supported CSK. Supported only Dhoni, and even that actually I moved away later.
right, right. So during Gambhir's period, KKR was a totally different team back then. So they played a different kind of cricket. Gambhir was a very good leader for KKR. So it was like a golden period for KKR. So was it one of the reasons that you supported KKR ahead of other teams, or is it just because of Gautam Gambhir?
One thing is they made some smart choices. So KKR, so IPL also started evolving as a brand or as a tournament. If you can, see, I'm sure if you had followed from the very beginning. So I have been following right from the auctions of 2008 when it happened. Actually, 2000 end of 2007, I think the auction happened, or beginning 2008. I exactly forget, but initially it started as a tournament which was with frills, thrills, and all glitz and glamour and entertainment. That was the prime focus. But come 2010, 2011, when the once everybody started peeling the onions and data became a big part of the franchisees' strategies, KKR made a decision much earlier than so KKR, which was owned by Red Chillies and Shah Rukh and Jay Mehta, always seen as a glamour sort of the franchisee, right? But 2011, something different happened on the auction table. They left behind all those things. They dropped Saurav Ganguly, which at that point of time, being in Calcutta, you could have been probably murdered for that. So they did not, even though everybody assumed they would back him up and maybe fire the coaches, they didn't. Instead, they privatized this a bit. Venki Mysore coming in as the CEO, the way they structured the team, say that we'll back the team, so we'll pick Gautam and start building a team. That entire process intrigued me so much that I have my favorite player, but apart from that, the way they went around building that team. So I think the youngsters at that time were Manish Pandey, and there was a small time WW bowler, as Harsha Bogle would call him, Rajat Bhatia, and very smart buys because in IPL you definitely need multi-dimensional or in words of Ambati Raidu 3D players. So so that sort of quality KKR, that sort of a team that KKR starting to build. And on top of that, you have this guy, Gautam Gambhir, who was very unlike the Indian cricket captains, maybe Saurav Ganguly a little bit, but definitely not like people anticipated every Indian captain to behave like Dhoni, Captain Cool. But here we had Mr. Angry Guy who would show his emotions, and he somehow like that, and that sort of made me move towards KKR. And so it's Gautam Gambhir and the way they did their data analysis and conducted the team. So for me, it's a combination of all these three things.
Right, right. So when KKR was doing so well under Gambhir's captaincy, so when did the shift from KKR to Sunrisers Hyderabad happen? Because
So David,
Gambhir moved from KKR to Delhi in between, and that was the time when that name change, Deccan Chargers to Sunrisers, also happened, and the brand of Hyderabad completely changed.
yeah. So there's an even though not as feisty a character like Gambhir, but Sunrisers got themselves another guy who another lefty at top of the order from a certain Australia country called Australia, who was similarly passionate about it, and you could feel the intensity in him too. And he was an amazing leader. And Warner, who started off as a T20 opener, drafted into Test, or should I say, very later came into Test. If you look at his character, the way he adapted his game, again, a very thinking cricketer and who's pretty passionate about the team. For him, the team comes first, and no matter what, he can take the bullet. So David Warner was. I've been a big fan of David Warner too. So around the time when KKR shift was going on, so it was a very easy choice for me to make because when something gets broken and the way it got broken, and when you have another player that you personally like, and you see the same qualities picking up in certain other team, and it's automatically shifted to KKR, sorry, Sunrisers, and not giving them a chance. Actually, I never thought that in 2016 that they would end up winning IPL. So I
Right.
never thought they would instant hit, but I thought they had a good cricketing minds working to build a team or a structure in place in SRH too. So I like that fact.
Right. So after hearing your story so far, I think the coaching staff plays very important role in your selection of a particular franchise rather than the players. Because at that point in time, KKR's management was one of the best. The way they use data, the way they built up the team, and similarly in the SRH 2016 onwards, the way they had their coaching staff, the way they built the data, so it was very similar to what KKR did earlier. So do you think
Absolutely.
that the management plays a very important role in generating a fan base?
Not so personally. I mean, I cannot comment for others. So I get intrigued with data. So I love to play around my data. Also because probably that's extension of one of my jobs that I do in my real life too. So I love to play around with data and data numbers. These are the things that get me engaged completely. And cricket, if you look at it, cricket as a sport, yes, I love to play it, but I like the statistics even more. And I'm a statistic. Probably engineering was like in India. I don't know why I did my engineering. Maybe, but I would have loved to do statistics at some point. But coming back to your question, management that uses data properly, I automatically become their fans. So Rajasthan Royals, so it has always been my second team, always. I still love Rajasthan Royals. The way they have gone about, they're doing their business pretty judiciously. It fails sometimes. Data can never, I mean, end of the day, cricket is also about performing on the ground. Data can only carry you till the ground.
Right.
After that, it's up to the individuals. But giving you the right tools, making the right choices, and getting you fully prepared to coming to step by stepping on the field, that matters a lot in today's world. We are in data age. So yeah, any management that uses it to their advantage, I love them.
Right. Right. So I
Because there
have.
are too many players, right? So if you look at, sorry for interrupting, but the reason for that is there are only a bunch of, if you really look at the cricketing world, there are maybe 10 power hitters, or if you can call, there's only one Andre Russell. For every one Andre Russell, there's one Kieran Pollard, and maybe one AB de Villiers. Not everybody, every team can build around it. So if you look at KKR of that time and SRH of today's times, they actually, apart from one or two players here or there, and that's it. They never had a great team. And KKR won IPL before Andy Russell. Thanks, and before Sunil Narayan, the batsman or the power hitter, became popular.
Right.
But they utilized all their players, so maximizing the available talent to the best of their abilities is what matters. And people who do that regularly, they always end up winning, and I like that fact.
Right. Right. So yeah, so I was talking about data. So I had a counter example. So sometimes you have a management that emphasizes a lot on data, but you don't have a captain that likes data. Let's take RCB for example. So they had Mike Hassan this season, but that kind of relationship didn't work for RCB. So how do you think that this kind of management and captain integration and alignment, same line of thought, is important for the franchise to perform as well as to retain their fan base?
So Virat Kohli is an enigma. So nobody can unable. I'm still, even though I like him a lot, I'm still not able to figure him out as a captain because uh, for the type of team that he has, for some reason, people who leave RCB end up excelling elsewhere. He had this RCB team had Chris Gale, KL Rahul, Virat Kohli, AB de Villiers. You still don't win IPL. It's crazy. So I don't know how you can lose IPLs. I mean, by batting alone, every match you should be scoring 300. But again, the point I don't understand. So Virat Kohli, on the contrary, why? That's why it surprises me. He's a very big data guy when it comes to fitness. When it comes to his own life, he is a very data oriented guy. So somebody emphasized, I forgot the exact person, but 6 7 years back somebody emphasized him that if you have certain amount of muscle mass and to this level of fitness, you can achieve wonders. And he immediately transformed himself, and we all can see the results. So when a guy who can trust data to that extent for his own personal benefit, I'm surprised that he has not chosen to do that for with his team. And that what irritates me, because I still believe RCB still has a very good team, good players individually, but their sum of individuals is always lesser than what it is. So I'm extremely disappointed with that, but and that's one of the reasons why, even though I would want to support RCB as a team, I end up only supporting Virat Kohli. As soon as Virat Kohli gets out, then my whichever team is the opponent, I end up choosing them. But that's how it has been with RCB. At least my love affair with RCB.
Right, right. So let's come back to SRH. And so you said that your passion for SRH started with David Warner's rise, because previously the David Warner 1.0 version was with Delhi Daredevils, but the 2.0 version of David Warner came when he started playing for SRH. And similarly, they had another player who was completely opposite in terms of personality. They had someone like Kane Williamson. So when you have aggression and calmness in the team, so as a fan, who do you prefer to lead the team, the calmness of Kane Williamson or the aggression of David Warner?
No, so I disagree there. This is where people probably miss the point. What counts is passion. Forget aggression or calmness. Those are what camera shows us. So, and probably what camera doesn't show us is there somebody's ability to motivate the team and uh, start getting them to contribute together as a team. And
Right,
that is where people like Kane Williamson excels a lot. And there's a certain reason why when we hear about Stephen Fleming when he was captaining uh, New Zealand, Kane Williamson, Brendan McCullum, and David Warner, so they all had maybe Brendan McCullum was a little more aggressive in his outlook, rather more than Stephen Fleming and Kane. But all these guys had a lot of passion and they had the team delivering for the same cause. It didn't matter if somebody was bowling 1 over out of 20. It still mattered that he and with from the interviews that I've heard, people like the funny guys like Jimmy Neeshams of this world, who can be
right,
pretty brutal and funny Twitters. He made an interesting statement once saying that when playing for Kane, even if you're bowling at 1 over instead of your allotted 4 overs, he will ensure to tell you that how that 1 over is the most critical over of this game and how that can motivate youngsters and everybody, or even a batsman who gets to play 3 balls out of whatever. That sense of team spirit, that sense of a common cause, that is end of the day, it doesn't matter whether you score 20 or 40. If the team doesn't win, it doesn't matter anyway. That I think that is what both Davy Warner and Ken Williamson brought to the table. What we don't see is that passion. What we see is that a guy who likes to smile even when he loses, and he takes it easy. But no, there is a big, in my opinion, I've never met Kane, so I cannot comment. But whatever I've seen him, the way he has played and the way his teams have played, I think he's a pretty aggressive guy too, and a very passionate guy.
right, right. So
Just like
SRH is
he knows. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so SRH is one of those teams who is known for the kind of bonding that they have among their players. So they always stood for another player. Even if a player is injured, they always have someone or the other who performs really well, exceptionally well. So we have seen that whatever chances Saha got or whatever chances Guptill in the previous seasons got, or similarly the way Natarajan proved himself this seasons when he got chance when Bhuvi was injured. So these kind of stories we don't see from other franchises. So what is the reason that SRH always gets these types of players who always perform well whenever a player is injured? So,
See, you need to understand in a season you get 14 games. Before the start of the season, obviously that is where the management, the data part comes in. But obviously everybody has to be nimble on their feet to think how to use the data to their advantage once the tournament starts. So let's take a scenario. So what if? So you had what if you started with you? They did not actually start with Natarajan to begin with.
yes, yes.
Uh, so they did not. They started off with Khalil and the others.
Bhuvi,
And
Sandeep, Khalil, and Rashid.
yes, so that's how they started their season. The reason for playing Khalil, if in one of the post-match interviews was somebody from pace bowling. It was Muthaiya Muralidharan, not pace bowling. Their bowling coach. I think Muthaiya Muralidharan during the game when they keep interviewing randomly.
Right.
So they wanted a little bit of variety of somebody moving the ball away. That was a data-backed decision, saying that. hey, so we need a bowler who can bowl from that angle and make it work. So they started off with that, and at that point of time, Khalil was more probably internationally known than Natarajan. So they started off with that. They never left that line of thought throughout the tournament, just that they swapped the resources. And Khalil was not performing what was expected out of him, and they backed Natarajan to deliver, and they persisted with that thought, saying that they needed that variety, and they backed it. So between Khalil and Natarajan, one of them sort of fulfilled that criteria for them, and it worked for them. Take RCB's changes. So I'm bringing RCB for because it's an easy analysis for me. How they have swapped their bowling resources without reason or logic. So one match they back Washington Sundar, the next match he gets dropped, and you suddenly see the opposition has three left-handers in the top six, and you're surprised. Hey, why did they drop Washington Sundar? There, the commentators' view was, if I heard the commentators' view, they felt that it was more of a gut that they chose the team, and
Right.
they tried to pick your four overseas players and then try to mix match the others into the team. That's a very wrong way of. While you should play for your strengths, I'm all for playing for your strengths, but it doesn't hurt you if you also start playing around the weaknesses of others too. So that
Right.
is where I think SRH made the good use of the data in backing the line of thought. So they were very clear on what will get them success, and that would have landed them in failure. They did not win the IPL. So the way you see is that if you don't win the IPL, obviously you don't feel good about it. But see where they ended up. I think everybody, all of us would agree that they pushed beyond their weight this season, and that too without Bhuvi available, and they achieved. So pick your strengths, back it up. It's okay. Sometimes it comes off, but sometimes it doesn't come off. That's life. Some days somebody else plays better, but for if some days it doesn't come up, don't lose your basics. You can adapt, you can change, but don't scrap your basics, and that's what I like about that.
Right, right. So when we talk about the passion that David Warner brings to the team, so this season SRH has really performed on the field as well as off the field because of the passion that David Warner brought. So as a fan, how do you think that the off the field passion of David Warner in terms of the social media engagement and the dances of David Warner on Telugu songs and all that impacted the fans? Especially they gained lot of attention among the Telugu fans, and those songs, especially Buttaboma, became one of the popular songs on which the whole SRH team was dancing throughout the seasons.
So this is the amazing part of the. I think that was a masterstroke on Davies' part actually, because here the team nobody had cricket for almost 6 months, and everybody was coming off, and everybody knew that they are going to be isolated for like 3 months, and it's very tough. It's easy for us to think from sitting outside to think that hey, these guys are having fun staying in five-star hotels, playing cricket, and it seems very easy for us to think. But what people don't realize is that this can cost people careers too. One bad season, and what I first so you do you remember that there was a guy called Kamran, a fast bowler called for
Yes,
Rajasthan. Nobody
Kamran Khan
remembers
from
him.
Rajasthan, who used to bowl around 149. So Shane Warne found him.
Yes,
And he was a one season
correct.
miracle or two season miracle. That's it. And then his career ended. Yeah.
His career ended, and people, that is what people don't realize. People think it's all that. So, and you need, so people are always constantly under big pressure. So it's a very high pressure environment. And I cannot get into a game thinking that, feeling that pressure, feeling that, hey, what will happen? I mean, if my mind is always about my performance all the time, I'm going to definitely fail. It's very hard for anybody to perform. So this one thing that David did, it lightened up the entire mood. So they saw, okay, the captain himself is trying to integrate himself with the team, with the culture, and with the fans. So the fans are not just keeping thinking, "Hey, this is a boring team to follow." So he gets that passion involved, and he obviously does. He did that pretty well, and that gave a message to. And this team had a lot of under 19 players also. So That's one of the easiest way to sort of gel with the younger generation, because the younger generation is a lot different than in their outlook towards life to what Davy. So he did that perfect act of welcoming the younger generation into the fold while ensuring that his passion stayed true towards a single cause, and that was gelling the team for the IPL. So I think that was amazing, and that again, that particular one video swayed my loyalties. I should say not swayed, made my loyalties stronger towards SRH.
Right, right. So, talking about culture, so SRH has really utilized the culture very well, but there is a similar team, Rajasthan Royals, which has also a cultural heritage there. But when we see that the team structure is also very same, or SRH and current RR, I'm talking about current SRH and current RR, they both are over reliant on their overseas players. But as a
Yeah.
fan, when we see these teams, we don't we see RR more as an overseas team, which is over reliant on their overseas players in terms of their brand image and also on their performance. But when we see SRH, so even though their campaigns and all are around the three players, Kane, Rashid, and Devi, but we don't see that they a team SRH is a team which is over reliant on their overseas players, right? So they still have maintained that kind of local connect as compared to Rajasthan Royals. So what do you think that how they have done this, that even though they are over reliant on their overseas players, but still they have maintained the local culture image?
So good question. Actually, I never thought of it like that. Maybe thinking now you ask this question, I'm thinking aloud with you here. Um, say a CEO sitting in UK and tweeting will make it thinking that okay, this is a foreign thing. That's number one. And and most of the tweets, it also depends on who is the public face of the social media campaign and how are they campaigning it. Unfortunately for them, apart from Sanju Samson, uh, before this IPL season, I'm saying before this IPL, now you can say Rahul Tewatia and a few others. They has not. I don't think since Warner quit there was a steady. They never built a team per se. Suddenly, in the last two 3 seasons they had Robin Uthappan, Rahul Tewatias, and Shreyas Gopal suddenly come into limelight. But uh, they and who else? I'm not able to think about any strong Indian player apart from the ones that I've just mentioned. Previously, at least, they had for some time Yusuf Pathans of this world, and he's a World Cup winner who was associated with. But having said that, Rajasthan for me has always been a foreign team for me, because the way it was always shift. Initially, it was Shane Warne, and then in between, Rahul Dravid tried to lend something to it. But nowadays, ever since that English Australian combination of Josh Butler, Stephen Smith, Ben Stokes, all these things came, they have sort of relied way too much on them, and it was very clear that if they perform, they win. If they don't perform, they don't. So unless they start grooming some serious strong, or in the next auction, I don't know how the next auction is going to play around, because that's going to be interesting, and what their strategies. I'll be closely looking at Rajasthan, because that's one, especially their auction, how it goes, the strategy. They seem to do a lot of smart buys all the time. But last time, the last big auction onwards, I think they had complete over reliance on these four players, and they had to just back it. And for them, all the other Indian players were mix and match, chop as and when required, and it was never, the others were never in any spotlights. And that's one of the reasons why I don't think they were able to connect a lot with the local population much. There, or they did not even want to. Let me
Right.
put it that way. I never saw them create any campaigns. They try. I mean, they have a lot of interesting campaigns. So don't get me wrong there. But the players, they do not have the players to back it up.
Right. So I think that's where SRH has done better as compared to Rajasthan Royals. The way David Warner, Kane, and Rashid Khan connected with the local people and local culture, the way they have portrayed themselves. We have never seen the English and Australian players from Rajasthan Royals talking in Rajasthani, whereas we have seen the SunRisers Hyderabad players talking in Telugu.
Yeah, absolutely. That you absolutely, that is something that was definitely I would have expected. Who from whom? I don't know who's the fun guy out of those four there. So for me, all four they seem pretty serious, tight-lipped sort of characters. So they need somebody who can. Maybe they should start getting more of Jimmy Neeshams into their squad.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So before we end this segment, my last question to you is: so SRH has portrayed themselves on social media as Orange Army. So that's their hashtag. So as a SRH fan, how do you feel that this term Orange Army is associated with the franchise? And does this show the kind of connect that the team has?
Uh, I don't like that term Orange Army, first of all. I did not connect. I personally did not connect with that when they call themselves Orange Army. Maybe they had to back their promoters who has Rising Sun as their logo and or the Sun Corporation, which owns them. So they had to stay true to those colors. But having said that, they need to put on their creative hats a little bit more, I think, for next year onwards, and try to come up with something unique. I mean, why just because you have a Barmy army somewhere, you don't have to do Orange Army or see what does CSK guys call themselves? I don't think they call themselves Yellow Army. So
Definitely not.
so you need to get. I mean, I urge the SRH management that they should wear their thinking caps a little bit. They are very good on the data, so try connecting with the fans. A very good way to get fans engaged, to get them a name. I think get the public opinion in and go from there.
Right, right, right. I think that's a brilliant answer and a brilliant suggestion that the SRH management can definitely take from here. And that the way they have performed on the field and off the field to some extent, that they can take their game to the next level especially off the field game. Right.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I definitely don't want them to scrap what they have been doing. They have built. If the next auction is going to be that mega auction, obviously everybody, all teams will have to rebuild from scratch. And with I don't know if the two new teams are going to come or one new team is going to come, whatever the talks are. Either ways, it's going to be, I believe, scrap it and build it, and I'm going to look forward to it very closely. In fact, I'm already reading whatever subjects that's available on the net
Right.
and starting to get my own opinions about that. But I know it doesn't matter for them, but at least it will keep me engaged as a fan with the franchises I support, and depending upon which franchisee does what. My next time when we speak next year, maybe my loyalties would have changed again.
Right, right, right. So, as a fan, what gives you more confidence? The faces behind the table who sit on the auction tables and select the team for SRH, especially VVS Lakshman Muthia, Muralidharan, or the captain that leads the team from the front, like David Warner?
And combination, definitely captain plays a large role. I am a believe that cricket is a leader. There needs to be leader in a sport like cricket. Till the difference, one of the things that is still not allowed, even though I think the last couple of weeks there has been some interesting dugout signals that have started coming out to the cricket fields.
Right,
But till now, it has been a captain's game. A captain decides what, and he controls the way uh, the cricket field, I mean, the cricket is conducted on the field. So that, from that standpoint, I believe it is. I believe captain is really a very important sort of a cog in this. So, if you, on a scale of say 0 to 100 percentage wise, I would still think 60 to 65% is I would go with the captain. but I would still give 30-35% of the weightage towards the management staff also about what they are doing. So, but yeah, captaincy is a major factor in my mind.
Right, right. So I said that my previous question was the last question, but your answer kind of probed me to ask you another one. So probably this will be the last one. So there is a perception among fans that when an Indian captain leads the team, so they kind of have more connect with the franchise as compared to when an overseas franchise leads the team. So, but SRH is a totally different franchise because even if David Warner or Kane Williamson leads the team, fans still feel that kind of connect with David Warner and Kane Williamson. So, what do you think is the reason as a fan that even if there is an overseas face leading the team, but you don't see David Warner or Kane Williamson less than any other Indian captain?
I'll give you one data which will sort of kill that opinion. 2009 IPL finals, if you look at the fan polls, 60% of the people who logged in supported wanted Deccan to win, and
Right,
only and which was led by Gilchrist,
Gilchrist.
versus 40% who were supporting RCB, which was led by an Indian captain, which was Anil Kumble, and he was, by the way, a local bidda also, Karnataka guy, who was
Right.
leading their hometown franchisee, and Bangaloreans were some of the Bangaloreans I know of were supporting, rooting for Adam Gilchrist. So I don't think that matters a lot. It matters about who the captain is, what sort of a captain he's, and allowed in Chennai. And it's all about what sort of connect you are able to make, right? And Gambhir was never from Kolkata, but
Right.
he had a bigger, and people once sort of left and played for. I still remember a game. I think he went to Kerala, Kochi Tuskers. I
Right.
forget which team Ganguly went, right, 2011 season. A game against Kolkata against Kochi. Everybody thought the Eden Gardens crowd will root for Ganguly. No, they
I
didn't.
think
They
it was
supported
Pune
Gautam
Warriors,
Gambhir.
Pune Warriors, not
So
Kochi Tuskers.
Pune Warriors. Yeah, Pune. So this is all perception, but eventually if you don't establish that connect with the fan base or with the fans, I don't think it doesn't really matter. It's about which captain is able to establish that connect more stronger, and that's one of the reasons why Kings 11 is still having a very hard time even today to connect with their local fan base, because they never had a steady captain, and they never had a captain who would connect with the bases. So while I mean, I hope KL Rahul stays there for a few more years and makes some connects, but he still in the first season at least he did not.
Right, right.
Yeah,
So I think it
yeah.
was great. Great.
Which other franchise? I mean, I know purposely I didn't want to talk about Mumbai because I hate them. So, uh, but they've again first 5 6 seasons they failed miserably, and they started building again. That's a vision. While we keep every time they win, we keep saying that it's because of Ambani, which is unfair. But they have backed their captain right through, and their team has not changed in the last 10 years or 5 years, at least 6 years. And how many franchises would have backed Hardik Pandya and Krunal Pandya in their first seasons after that? Nobody. But these guys backed them. And suddenly, out of nowhere, they bloom in today. And Jasprit Bumrah, they got Jasprit Bumrah in. And when he came in, he was a nobody. Today, he's the number one, but they persisted. So, and anyway, I think your question was for captaincy and fan engagement. So sort of deviated. Coming back, I think it doesn't matter whether it's an Indian or a foreign. It's about which captain connects with that culture. Devi, Telugu dance, that instant connect. Dhoni wears a lungi, he connects. So you need to do that. You need to adapt, and you need to connect with the culture, and they'll take you to the pedestal.
Right, right. So I think that answers it really well that culture plays a really important role in maintaining the fan base. and especially educating the fans and also maintaining a loyal fan base, not just a fan base, but a loyal fan base. So that kind of connect, which your franchise establishes that kind of connect with the fans, they kind of leverage that connection into sponsorship and getting higher TV rights and those kinds of deals. Yeah,
Absolutely.
right. So it was
Uh,
great talking to you, and thanks for taking out time. And you gave such really good insights. So I hope the viewers will like the data insights that you gave as a player, and what kind of analysis that goes beyond, and how data impacts fandom and all those things. So it was great
I'm
hearing the
sure
insights from a
there,
different perspective.
I'm sure there are certain, at least there will be minuscule population, but I'm sure there will be a few, I think 5 or 10% of the population which likes to follow cricket by wearing a data hat, and I'm
Right.
one of them.
Yeah, definitely you could see that. Right. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me.